My name is Angina Vasquez Rufino, and I'm from the Dominican Republic. I came to this country when I was 9 years old. Before that, I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic. At the age of 6, my parents got divorced, and my mother had to come to this country. And I stayed there in a convent. She was able to place my older siblings with my older sister. She had gotten married, but she didn't have room for me because I was younger, and according to my mother, I require more attention, and I was going to get that attention and care in the convent. Life there was very painful. It was very harsh. I had to grow up very fast. I was the only child, and it was a very cold place for a child. And at the age of 9, my mother brought me here to New York. I came with my two older brothers. So now it's my two brothers, me, and my mother in a 9 by 12 room. And at that age, at around 9, is when I had my first experience working. I had to start working. I babysat a neighbor's child, so it was a child taking care of a child, and that's how I began my New York experience. I was 17 years old when I had my first daughter, Adrian. It was an unplanned pregnancy. I found out that I was pregnant, and a couple of weeks later, I was already married. That was, according to my family, that was the only choice at that time. And all of a sudden, I found myself married, pregnant, and with a choice: do I go and work, or do I rely on public assistance? And I feel that that was what saved me. That at that time, one of the nurses, one of the social workers in the hospital, in the prenatal hospital, all of a sudden they take me and they put me into this room, and they decide, well, it's obvious that you're a teenager, and therefore we just have all this paperwork for you here to fill out, and we are going to give you, the government is going to give you help. And I said, no, thank you. I am going to find myself a job. And that's what I did. I went and I found myself a job. I did that. I was, I think, 2 months pregnant. I decided, well, you know, I have to get going and find a job before I start showing. And that's what I did. And I began working, and I haven't stopped ever since. I took a break about 2 days before I had my Adrian. I stopped working, and then I went back to work about 2 weeks later. And that's how I feel I survived the trauma that it is to have a child at the age of 17. And I had a family and a husband and a home. And to most people, that would have seemed like just about enough and no place for anything else. But for me, I know that there was no other choice, that I had to go back to school and I had to continue my studies. And that's what I did. Was it easy? No, it wasn't easy. Was it impossible? No, it wasn't impossible. For the next few years, 4 years, I took my daughter everywhere I went. So I remember I will get up in the morning, get her dressed, and go to work. I will go into work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then come out of work at 6. I will pick up my daughter again and take her with me to school. They had a nursery at the school, and that was the first time that I actually took, I guess you could say government help, but it was not government help. It was financial aid, and the financial aid helped me pay for the nursery within the school, and I was to take my daughter with me every day to school. I balanced a full-time job, the needs of a home, cooking and cleaning and so forth, and the laundry and all of that. And then I will also go to school with my infant child, come back home, do my homework, and get everything ready for the next day. Looking back, I say it it looks hard, but I could say that those were probably the most accomplishing years of my life. I remember what was overwhelming for me was the notion that I was responsible. I was responsible for someone else's life, and I was the role model for someone else. That was what I felt was overwhelming for me. That notion of having to take care of this child while I tried to take care of myself. What was the biggest challenge that I encountered while I was in college? I always wanted to be an anthropologist, cultural anthropologist, and I was very good at it. I was a very good student, and I was offered. One of my professors offered me an opportunity to go to Papua New Guinea, and at that time, Adrian was probably 3, 4 years old, and he said, "Look, I'm choosing you and a few other students, but you're my first choice to go with me to Papua New Guinea." And I remember I went home, I was so excited, and it hadn't crossed my mind that I had a child. So that's when it hit me that I couldn't go, that I had a child, and I think that was one of my biggest obstacles that I encountered while going to school and with a child. But that's the downside now. Having a child at an early age, it's not all bad. At least not to me, because I had to face life a lot younger, and I also had to set some goals for myself a lot younger and try to accomplish those goals being a lot younger. I remember also right after college, I came and my next goal was to buy my first home, and for me, I couldn't wait. I had to provide my child with some security. By the age of 23, I was able to purchase my first home. Fast forward now, 15 years later, and I remarry. I've been married for the last 7 years to a wonderful man, and I had 2 more children. I also invest a lot of time in the family well-being, and that means a lot to me as well. So in all, I could say that I am a successful woman. I'm able to take care of my family. I do well in my business, and I am part of my community. In all, I am blessed. And the person that I am today is exactly what I picture myself to be when I was younger.